What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Looks like we have our first Nintendo Direct. It's a Pokemon Direct, but we do have our first Direct, technically, of 2020. We're going to go over what you can expect from it, when it is, and if it has any real effect on what we all assume to be coming soonish, and that is a major Nintendo Direct. We'll talk about that all today. In fact, we may even have a few dates that have kind of been put out there at this point by Capcom, which was interesting because it's for a game you might not expect that could have told us about some dates to look forward to for a Nintendo Direct. Also, we talked about AMD showing off ports for the Xbox Series X that weren't correct, right? Because they got it from like an asset website. Well, we may now know the actual ports on the back of the Series X, as Thurrott.com managed to get a hold of the schematics or the images of the back, so we could take a look at that today as well. And then some pretty cool classics coming to the Switch that I'm pretty excited to see. We'll go over all that and more today, guys. As always, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit the like button. It helps out a lot. You guys have been liking them quite a bit over the past few weeks, and it has been helping out the videos quite a bit, so I do appreciate that. And if you are new here, make sure you subscribe down below with the little red button and the bell icon on. That way you can stay up to date on all of the gaming news going on in the gaming world. We're going to start today with Platinum Games, as they have a partnership, it seems, with Tencent. And that of course, when I hear Tencent, I go, oh great, here comes Tencent again. Look, Tencent's been working their way into everything at this point, but I do at least want to kind of go over what Platinum had to say on their own site, because they did put out a statement. We would like to announce we have received a capital investment from Tencent Holdings Limited as a basis for partnership. This partnership has no effect on the independence of our company, and we will continue operations under our current corporate structure. We hope to use this capital to strengthen our foundation as a business and expand from game development into exploring self-publishing. We also hope that this partnership can give us a wider global perspective while still creating high-quality games that stay true to our name. So, the whole thing with Tencent is they are working their way in, but they're doing quietly with a lot of companies, right? We see them with Epic. They haven't really had a major effect on Epic, but still, we know they're there, and they have been trying to work their way in all over the place. Massive company with plenty of capital to spread around and get their way into different companies. And of course, they helped Ubisoft kind of stave off Vivendi, and that at least has worked out kind of so far. I mean, they haven't tried to put a stamp on Ubisoft to make them do anything, but that's always the issue people look into as well. What's Tencent gonna want back? This appears to be more like a loan, I guess, and if it'll let Platinum do some self-publishing, which it seems like that's what they want to do, it will give them some more freedom to take a chance and try something crazy. Although Platinum Games, their stuff already is kind of crazy if you look at it, but maybe they could try something even crazier, something on their own, something they can put on pretty much every system, not have to hope that a company will show up and fund it for them. It's good for Platinum, but also you gotta be wary about Tencent, because you never know. Oh, and while we're on the topic of Platinum Games, they actually sat down with Famitsu in an interview where they mentioned that Astral Chain, which is something that's been questioned quite a bit, or is the sales performance of this game, how is it really done? We haven't heard a lot about it. Definitely no solid figures. However, in the interview with Famitsu, they did say that it actually sold more than expected, and that's the whole part you have to really keep in mind with games like these, or just games in general. There are expectations placed on games, and you hope that that game can reach that mark. It doesn't have to be a 10 million unit seller. If they're looking for 1 million copies out of it and it crosses that, that might not be as much as, say, I don't know, Smash Brothers or Mario Kart or Zelda or anything like that. But if the company has kind of just this predetermined amount that they want it to sell and it crosses that, then to them, that is a massive success, even though it's not as much as other games around it, right? We've seen it with, on the other side with EA, where they'll put like these large expectations on games. They've done it before, and then they say, oh, it didn't reach 8 million copies sold, so it was a failure. Whereas a lot of places would say, wait, hold on, that's really good. We also got a look at some new Game Pass games for this month coming to the Xbox console. Remember, they have like Game Pass on PC and Game Pass console. Well, looking at their Game Pass console offerings that are showing up this month look pretty good, because Tekken 7 is in there, which is kind of neat. Let's take a look. They put this slide out here. We also have the dates. So on January 9th, Frostpunk, that'll be on the Xbox console, and then Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet will both go to Game Pass. So if you have that, of course, you can just open the app and download it. Then January 16th, we'll have Tekken 7, which is pretty cool to see. And then, of course, we already know at this point that Grand Theft Auto 5 has just kind of randomly hit Game Pass. Tekken 7's a good one to throw in there, especially if you have not played it. It's a fun fighting game to check out. Sword Art Online might be worth downloading just to see. I actually have not played Frostpunk, so that could be an interesting one to check out as well. That's pretty much the cool thing about Game Pass is you can kind of try stuff just to see. All you really miss out on, I guess, is just the time it takes to download, and you can just do that while you're off doing other things anyway. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start with this Pokemon Direct. I know it's not the Direct that everyone was hoping to see announced yesterday. Everyone was hoping, tune in to for a Nintendo Direct for like 30 minutes of new information on Nintendo games coming out for 2020. That's what we always hope to see when we hear about a Direct on Nintendo's Twitter account, but they announced a Pokemon Direct. It's a pretty long Pokemon Direct as well. This is the tweet that they put out, and it says, tune in on January 9th at 6:30 a.m. Pacific. That would be, of course, 9:30 a.m. Eastern for roughly 20 minutes of new Pokemon information in a live-streamed Pokemon Direct presentation. Now, that page is already up, so you can go over and set a reminder if you would like, or just remember to tune in kind of early if you're on the West Coast, right, on the 9th. So, looking at this, people are trying to figure out what could they possibly be showing us, considering Sword and Shield is still not that old. It just came out less than 2 months ago. So I'm not going into this expecting to hear about a new game in the mainline series. I think that should be kind of obvious. I mean, sure, they could put something out there about like a game for this year that's not necessarily a mainline Pokemon game, but if they wanted to do something for the holiday that's like a Let's Go game, they might wait until like just before E3 in May to give Sword and Shield a little more time to breathe while they're kind of still selling through, especially after Christmas time. So you do wonder, what could they show here? Well, if you remember, before, we saw all kinds of stuff at a presentation that they did with Pokemon Sleep, which is still super strange to consider. And then they had the Pokemon Go Plus. Great naming, by the way, there. And then Pokemon Home, of course, which I think everything out of this, most people want to hear about Pokemon Home. Pokemon Home, of course, is going to be a way for you to transfer Pokemon from Sword and Shield. We heard Let's Go. Pikachu and Eevee, I think, should be compatible with that as well. And then other Pokemon games going forward. It's like the online storage, most likely it'll obviously cost something, some kind of subscription fee for the year or a monthly thing. But it is something that people have been hoping to hear more about and hopefully have it activated soonish. We'll see about that. That is something that I think will be a big focus here, as well as Pokemon Sleep. I am curious what the whole point of Pokemon Sleep is. So yes, that is something that I will be tuning in to see more about, since you're supposed to have this Go Plus and you put it on your bed while you sleep and it's supposed to do something. Do you train Pokemon while you sleep or something? I'm not sure, but that's something they've wanted to do, and we've heard Nintendo look at these different ways to kind of interact even while you're sleeping, or your heart rate monitor and all this stuff. So it's something Nintendo's been looking at for a while now, and I guess it seems to work with Pokemon for Pokemon Sleep. Now, the other question is, would they show up with some sort of spin-off game? And yeah, I would hope so. I mean, that'd be neat, right? Look, if they're not going to take a chance on the mainline Pokemon series, and I get why they might not, because it sells, like it's going to sell. Status quo on that is going to be 15 million copies, pretty much no matter what on the Switch going forward for the mainline series. I get it. But a spinoff would be neat. Take a chance with something. People have said Mystery Dungeon. I would like to see Pokemon Snap 2, of course. I say this all the time. Would love to see that, absolutely. I'm not talking about like what the photo mode that we see is super popular in a lot of games. Nothing like that in Pokemon where you take selfies of yourself walking around the wild area. No, like an actual Pokemon Snap 2. That would be great. I'm in for that day one. The other thing that would be neat is if they did something like where they did Pokemon XD, where it was kind of like its own like RPG experience adventure that had less Pokemon in it, but it was a bit more story driven. Something like that would be kind of neat as well. And then of course, people are hoping to hear about a like Diamond and Pearl remakes of some kind. There's a lot of stuff kind of up in the air right now, but 20 minutes, which is a pretty long presentation. I think it's going to have a lot to do with things like Home and Pokemon Sleep and the Go Plus Plus, and possibly, this will be interesting, some kind of downloadable content for Sword and Shield. If you have to pay for that, that is going to be an interesting day on the internet. But we'll see. I guess on the 9th, we'll see what happens here with Pokemon, Sword and Shield, Home, Sleep, and anything else they have for us. Next up, while we're on the topic of the Pokemon Direct, let's kind of shift over to the Nintendo Direct side of things, because people were curious, wait, does this mean that a Nintendo Direct's not going to happen in January? Not necessarily, as there have been times where we've had Pokemon Directs and then like a week later, a Nintendo Direct still happens, right? I mean, I know Nintendo is part of the Pokemon company and all of that, but they still kind of treat it separately. Like Pokemon it'll just get its own Direct. It doesn't need to be part of a Nintendo Direct to show off all the stuff that it has, because especially now with all the other things they're doing with cell phones, like I said, Sleep and Go Plus Plus, they have a lot going on, so I get why they'd have their own Direct. But a Nintendo Direct could still follow possibly next week. That is kind of where I'm looking at for a Direct, is indeed next week. And what was interesting about this situation, Devil May Cry 3 is coming out on the Switch, I believe, next month, towards the end of February. Yes, and they are going to have some special features, it seems, for the Switch. They actually took to Twitter, as you're seeing here, and this video was put out from producer Matt Walker, where he goes down and he outlines 3 different dates: January 16th, January 30th, and February 13th. What seems to be just information for some little extras that are going to be added to the Switch version of the game. They say that it'll be stuff that we may really like, or should really like, especially for Devil May Cry fans, specifically for Devil May Cry 3. One, that's pretty cool that they're going to add some extra stuff to it, and I think they should, because it's a re-release, and it's probably, it's going to be, $20 or so, and yeah, I get it. We've seen Devil May Cry 2, so yeah, at least Devil May Cry 3 is the follow-up here for us. If they didn't bring 3 over, yeah, I don't know what they'd be thinking then. So at least we have that with some special features, it seems, but it's odd that they didn't just share the stuff here, and then they name January 16th, which is next Thursday, which is actually kind of around the time I thought there'd be a Direct, the 15th or the 16th. So Wednesday or Thursday, we could possibly see a Direct with Devil May Cry 3 in it being advertised. See, because when we have a Direct, of course, after the Direct has aired, a ton of press releases go out, trailers go up all over the place. It is a massive thing happening all at once. Information's flying everywhere, and it's very possible that whatever they're talking about here would get kicked off on the 16th after a Direct happens that then says, oh, this is like the cool special feature that's going to be in there, something that's specific to the Switch version, and then Capcom puts out some kind of information about it leading up to even maybe the other dates. Now, the other thing to look at, if we're considering the 16th, because those are the dates that Capcom has mentioned, you have to consider the other dates as well, which could be either the end of January or fall into February. Also possible for the Direct, but still, I'm kind of looking at everything right now in the big picture, and I do think odds are that it'll be next week, but we'll just have to wait and see on that one. Hey, at least there's some sort of special feature for Devil May Cry 3. It should be pretty fun to see what they're talking about. Next up, let's talk about the Xbox Series X, as we had seen some ports from AMD's presentation where they did like the sweeping shot of the system, and then it showed the back, and it was a bit odd because there were like 2 HDMI ports on there, and that was a little weird. Multiple USB-C ports, which was pretty neat to see that, but it came out that AMD had strangely bought that rendering from an asset website and just thrown it in there, which apparently they weren't even allowed to use it for that. Strange stuff there. They even admitted that they had done that and that they were wrong to do it. I don't know, but the big thing here was, are those the actual ports for the Xbox Series X? They are not. However, Thurrott.com, Brad Sams, got the scoop on what appear to be the actual ports for the back of the Xbox Series X. Now, I have a bit of a theory on where this is coming from, but let's take a look here. This is the image that Thurrott.com did put up, and we can go down some of the ports here so you can get an idea as to what we're looking at. If you go all the way to the bottom right, that appears to be a power port, kind of the standard port that you see on like the Xbox One X or the Xbox One S right now. Right above that is an Ethernet port. Then we have 2 USB Type A's that, according to the site, are the super speed varieties, so like USB 3, for example. Then to the left left of that, we have our optical port. We have a port below that I'm not 100% sure on what that could be. Again, I have kind of a theory on that one. And then below that, we have an HDMI port that should be HDMI 2.1, just based on the things that Microsoft is talking about with this system. Now, that port that looks almost like a spot for an SD card, like a larger SD card, that could very well be for debugging for something like a dev kit. These could very well be ports that are on the back of a dev kit currently that Brad Sams was able to get information for. Very possible there. Otherwise, that could be expandable storage on the back, maybe. That's like these little SSD things. We've kind of talked about that before. I do think that may be a port specific to the dev kit, or maybe it's for use for something Microsoft has not even introduced to us yet. But no USB-C. That is kind of a shame because, of course, that just makes it easier to plug things in, especially on the back where you can't necessarily see the port. A USB Type-C can go in either way. We've talked about this, upside down, right side up. Doesn't matter with USB-C, whereas Type-A can be kind of annoying. As long as the controllers have USB-C on the top as well as the rest of the peripherals, and we just deal with USB-A on the console side, all right, that's fine, I guess. As long as, like I said, the controllers won't have to deal with that micro USB stuff anymore. I don't like those ports at all. They're very archaic, it feels like now, and USB-C, especially with what the Switch has been able to do, is like, to me anyway, what I'm used to, so I'd prefer that one. However, though, looking at the ports on the back, it seems more straightforward than I thought. Like, I was kind of thinking there might be something else going on back there, but no, just some USB ports, a Ethernet port, HDMI, and optical seems to be pretty straightforward. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Oddworld, because we know Oddworld Stranger's Wrath is coming out January 23rd. It's on the eShop now. I believe you can preload it or pre-order it, but something you may want to keep in mind is it does appear to have a physical copy on the way, which is great to hear about that before the game comes out, because of course they like to, sometimes companies will tell us this like, a month after it comes out. And to some of these companies' credits, it wouldn't happen unless the digital version sold well enough. So I get all of that, but looks like there might be some more Oddworld on the way. So what's happening here is Microids actually sent out a press release as they now have a partnership with Oddworld Inhabitants to do 3 different Oddworld titles on the Switch. We already know about Stranger's Wrath HD, and like I said, that's coming out in about 2 weeks now, and you will see that physical copy in the first quarter of 2020. So sometime between, I guess, now and that'd be the end of March or beginning of April, somewhere in there. And we will also have 2 other Oddworld games. Now, really trying to figure out which Oddworld games it could be. There's not a lot that you could pick from. I assume like New and Tasty would be probably one of them, because they're saying these are the older Oddworld games, not the newer one that appears to be coming out sometime this year. And we don't even know platforms for that one, so that could still make its way to the Switch, the Xbox One, the PS4. That could end up being a cross-gen game for all we know, going into the PS5 and the Series X even. So that's still on the table there. But looking at the ones that most likely are available, you'd probably see Munch's Odyssey, and you'd probably see New and Tasty, which Munch's Odyssey was, I liked that game on the original Xbox, thought it was really fun. I like Stranger's Wrath as well. That was a really cool first-person shooter adventure style game, and I think people should check it out in a couple of weeks when that drops. Otherwise, though, we'll see what they have for us, but New and Tasty, Munch's Odyssey, and then get Stranger's Wrath on there, and we got all kinds of Oddworld stuff on the Switch, which is really cool to see. Hopefully we get some information on the newer one that I believe is a remake of Exodus. They're going to kind of reimagine it somewhat, and we'll see if we get any more information about that, maybe at like E3. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Kenneth saying, if a Switch Pro is going to be revealed this year, I do hope they have an option to buy just the console tablet. I think that is a great idea, Kenneth. I do. Mostly because I believe they've kind of played around with the idea of selling the Switch without like power cables and stuff, where you just get the Switch and like the Joy-Con controllers on the sides, because a lot of people at this time probably already have their setup. They probably have multiple Joy-Con controllers, or they have their standard Joy-Con controllers that came with their system, and then they have a Pro controller, and they don't feel like they necessarily need 2 more Joy-Con controllers that would come with a Switch Pro or a Switch Revision, but they want like maybe the power boost if there is any, even if it's a slight bump, or maybe they like the way the new one looks, but they're like, do I really need 2 more Joy-Cons? And the other thing about that is the cost would probably be lower, as Joy-Con controllers, well, they're kind of up there in price, right? We all know that at this point. So I like that idea, and I would like to see that option. The thing that they would have to maybe have to figure out is how to market that as not coming with everything for new buyers. Maybe they call it like there's like the Switch Pro starter pack or the complete pack or something. Hard to say. Maybe they could just sell that online for people who want to upgrade, right? It's like, hey, if you already have the stuff, you just buy the tablet portion and we'll ship it to you. And it's, I don't know, like, I mean, it's Nintendo, like $50 less, right? Let's be honest here. But still, any discount just to avoid extra stuff you might not need would be good. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's go do it here for Newswave. Enjoyed this video, guys. Hit the like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it is the Pokemon Direct. What do you hope to see there? Because I know Pokemon has kind of gone through the ringer recently with Sword and Shield. People haven't been, it's been more controversial, I'll say, than I remember with Pokemon. Let me know what you hope to see there. And then also, what about a Nintendo Direct possibly for next week or later on this month? Or do you think Capcom accidentally told us the date that it could be? Or do you think it's going to be some other time completely? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.